The fluorescent lights flickered overhead. A single chair scraped across the linoleum floor in a room that smelled faintly of antiseptic. In the chair sat a man, gaunt, hollow-eyed, wrapped in a hospital gown. There was no stage, no adoring crowd, only a camera, a guitar, and a silence so complete it could have swallowed anyone else whole. But he didn't blink. He didn't flinch. Instead, with trembling fingers, he began to strum. Not with bravado, but with raw, fragile defiance. Like a man determined to claw his way out of his own mind. Note by note. Hi, Ren. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. 'Cause I always come back, he said. The voice that emerged wasn't just one. It was two. One taunting with slick venom, the voice of every doubt, every demon he'd ever known. And the other, a softer, aching, desperate to breathe. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself. And I've spent half my life ill, he says. Each verse was not a performance. It was a battle, a duel between the darkness that stalked him for years and the flicker of hope that refused to die. He hadn't always had the courage to sing this war aloud. He was born in Wales, a boy. He was labeled difficult, sensitive, and troubled. Doctors couldn't name what plagued him. Fatigue, fevers, disorientation that left him bedridden. The diagnosis rolled in his life like waves: anxiety, depression, psychosomatic illnesses. The unspoken conclusion was that it was all in his head, but it wasn't. He was living with undiagnosed Lyme disease and chronic neurological symptoms that ravaged his body and mind. For years, he drifted through the system that failed him, a ghost in the waiting. So when he started telling his story, you see, the thing about humans is we're all broken, every single one of us. And all the people that conceal it, well, they're just better at hiding that stuff. He filmed himself in a forgotten corner, gritty alleyways, stark white hospital rooms, rooftops above sleeping cities, singing the truth with a voice that didn't seek applause, only understanding. And the people who listened, well, they listened because behind every lyric was a man who had thought, I won't survive this, and chose to fight anyway. His most haunting work was a 9-minute exorcism of confrontation between two selves, one full of rage, clawing at his sanity, and the other full of grace, whispering healing. It wasn't a performance. It was scripture for the shattered. Even though I'm struggling with demons, I'm a fighter, a dreamer, and I swear that I'm believing that this war inside will end. It wasn't for the notes that drew millions. It was for permission to feel broken, to grieve, to survive, to speak. I see the recognition in your eyes. I see the discontent inside. I see the gray in the skies and the war inside your mind. One fan wrote this song didn't save me by fixing me. It saved me by making me feel seen. The lyrics aren't overly religious, but they vibrate with sacred tension, a desperate prayer in the dark, a modern psalm, a battle cry for the invisible. Life is like a pendulum. It swings between things that we love and things that we fear. Sometimes I hear whispers in my own ears, but I don't run anymore. I listen. The man in the gown was never trying to be a savior. He just refused to let the darkness speak unchallenged. And in doing so, he created a space where others could lay down their armor, to confess, to feel, to heal. His name, the one who turned the sterile hush of a psychiatric ward into an anthem of survival, is Ren. Not just a musician, but a truth teller, a mirror, a reminder that the voice inside you may just be the one needed to lead someone else out of the darkness. Welcome to the Mental Health Janitors, where we help you clean up the mess in your head.
You chose to do that today?
Yeah. Well, I don't choose it. I just feel led to it. There's a lot of stories that run around in my head, and that's the one that I landed on today. I pray about it on the way in. I'm like, okay, God, which one? Ren. Hey, Ren. I was like, oh, I listened to that just a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this is amazing. So I started studying it and him, which I do all the time, right? All kinds of stuff that I do. And he's just one of the stories that's been floating around in there. And that's the one that God wanted me to bring out today.
Sounds familiar.
It does, right? Yeah, I've had a bit of a hard time. The last couple months, it's hit me kind of in waves. You know, some days have been lower than others. Some have been harder than others. And I told a story this last week, right before the 4th of July. I told a little bit of my story of how I was battling with suicidal ideations on the 4th of July several years ago and how I almost ended my life. And I told a story and I put it out there on the internet, and I share a lot of my life. So I don't want to say I'm used to it, but I kind of am used to it. It doesn't get easier. It's always uncomfortable, but I shared that. And then I don't know, it had to have been 20 minutes later. I just went to Holly and was like, I don't feel good. I feel awful right now. And I had to think about it. And what came to mind was I had to relive that story. And as you know, when we tell the story, we're not telling the story. We're reliving that trauma. Our body is having those physical effects. We're getting the cortisol, adrenaline, all of those things that are coming through as if it's happening again when we're telling the story. And that's what I experienced. And so the rest of the day, I just cleared my schedule. I had one other meeting and I pushed it off until the next week because I was like, I'm not in the right headspace for this. I'm just going to take some time to relax. And that's what I did for the rest of that day after I posted that story. Because I don't write stories and then have a bank of them and then put them out. A lot of my posts on social media are like that. But the ones that you guys read, those stories are written that day. Yeah. That day they're written and put out. I don't overproduce them like I do a lot of my content. It's just like we do this podcast, right? It's not overproduced. It's just raw. That's V1 and I put it out. And so it's, that's what I was experiencing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel like, you know, it's hard to put out, but I know that it resonates with people. When I put that vulnerability out there, mm-hmm. I can see it with the response that I get. And you guys see some of it in the comments, but there's just as many, if not more, private messages that come in about that stuff. So you were struggling a little bit, Jess. It was the 4th of July, and I know that's a tough time for you as well.
Yeah.
We talked about that a little bit in pre-show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's...
So let me ask, what did you think? What did you think of that song? Like, we just mentioned it. I don't know if Casey will keep it in or not. There's a little bit of banter that happened right after I did the intro there, which I think you should probably keep that, Casey, or just put it back in. But that I picked that song.
Yeah.
Ren, the artist in that song that I just found a few weeks ago, for today's episode. And It was just fitting because of what you're walking through right now.
Yeah. I mean, the song was really fitting, but even more so was the story and the words you put together. To read from that song that just right now in my life is a mirror, and going over the last few years, like over the last 2 decades, I would say, I've grown so much, and I've maybe a little bit idolized that growth, even though all glory goes to God 100%. But, I'm like the hot mess Jess to Doc Jess, and like we celebrate that, and that's beautiful and that's awesome. And what I forget is that cortisol and that adrenaline and that attacks my body during times of the year like this, when I hear a distant mortar or firework go off and I am right back in Iraq, and then I have all the tools and the mental strength to say, nope, I'm here, and I do all my grounding and I do all the things that I'm supposed to do. And that's beautiful and that's great and that's growth. But a month of doing that 20 times a day is still exhausting, and my body is still experiencing, right? We've talked about our minds don't understand the difference between our 2D reality and our 3D reality. And so though mentally I've grown so much over the last 3-4 weeks, my body has been back in Iraq. And when people ask me, how did you do on the 4th? Oh, I did great. I slept. I did great. And then on Sunday at church, when somebody asked me, it all crumbled. I'm not doing great. I'm exhausted. My mind is exhausted. And I went to the altar, and I'm super careful about saying these words, but I feel like the Lord told me, pain isn't the enemy. Pain is the indicator that there's an enemy trying to destroy us. And the story just reminded me of that. And I just have to keep telling myself, the pain isn't the enemy. The pain is the indicator that there's an enemy that's trying to destroy me, trying to destroy what God is trying to do with us, with this podcast, with my growth. The enemy tells me don't share it because it makes me look weak. And I was not prepared this morning to talk about it, and then the song, and then the story, and it's just the last few weeks, 80% of my brain has been made up of suicidal thoughts, and there's been several times I've thought about checking myself in, because if you are regular followers, I made a promise to my family that if I had overwhelming thoughts of suicide, I would check myself in, and I've had to do that 4 times over the last 20 years, and I just kept thinking, I've just come so far, I shouldn't have to do that. And that 20% of my brain that has that logic and those tools keep pulling me back out, back out. And if there's one person that watches this and feels normal or resonates, and it helps them to not feel weak, to not feel different, then I guess embarrassment is a terrible word to use because it's not embarrassing, but the vulnerability of sharing that even we, how far we've come, have setbacks, is worth it. And I thank you guys, and I thank our audience for listening and giving me grace, and my family for giving me grace, and take it away.
That's sometimes the trap that we fall into of being the strong one, is that you always have to be strong because you can't show that vulnerability, because sometimes we think it will destroy our testimony of the growth that we've had if we have those moments of weakness. So we want to hide it. Or we think, oh, now I won't be believed when I tell other people how to overcome these things when I still struggle with it. Mm-hmm. So those two things really hold a lot of leaders back from expressing these types of things, because they don't want to discredit themselves or their story or the work that they've done. So they suffer in silence. And that is a huge mistake. And we watch people walk through that and make that mistake a lot in leadership. Struggling with mental health is the same thing with struggling with an old knee injury. I have a knee injury from my time jumping out of airplanes. And so I hike a lot. I love to hike, but there are times where my knee really starts to bother me. And that pain, like you said, is an indicator that something's going to break. So I need to take it easy. I need to rest. I need to massage that tendon. I need to tighten up my knee brace to be able to finish that hike. And then sometimes I have to take a break from hiking for a little bit. Like I went and pushed it hard this last weekend hiking, and I was going to hike today, but my knee is still sore. And I know that if I push myself, I'm going to cause an injury. So I have to take a little bit of time, and I have to tell my friends like, hey, I wanted to go do that hike, but my knee is just not up to it. I know it's disappointing. I'm sorry. I can't do it. If I just told them, hey, I don't want to do it, they'd think I'm a jerk, that I'm just don't want to hang out or don't want to go hiking or something went wrong. But when I tell them like, no, I got this old injury that has been persisting and I pushed it really hard, and now I'm kind of suffering the consequences of that. I'm going to take some time to heal, to ice it up, to rest it, to massage it, so I can go out and hike in a couple weeks. I can go and do that. But if I just kept pushing through, it's going to break. If I didn't tell my friends and I went on the hike, I'm going to cause an injury. And now they're going to have to haul me out of there. They have to carry my weight.
There's a sermon in there.
There is. Or the other option is that I say nothing and then they think I'm a jerk for just bailing on the hike. But when we're vulnerable and we tell each other like, hey, this leg is damaged, I'm nursing an old injury, they give me space and grace so I can heal. It's the same thing when we're struggling with mental health. There's this thing called the anniversary effect, that every year when you experience that trauma, every year you're going to feel bad during that same time because the body keeps the score. It knows when that time happened. There are other things in your environment that can trigger those things. For Jess, she just shared it. It's the sound of fireworks going off that bring her right back to that trauma moment. But when she shares that and explains it with her close circle of friends, they give her space and grace so she can heal. That it's not that she can't do these things, she just can't do them right now. She can't go do these things right now. She needs a little bit of time to heal. And so we have to give each other space and grace for those mental injuries as well. Because when we don't, then we push too far and we break. Or we say nothing and none of our friends and family understand it, and then it causes discord in the relationship and there's friction there, and you can damage relationships when we don't share these things. So when you're vulnerable and you share, I'm not saying you have to come on like we do and share it publicly in a public space like we do. We do that for your benefit. So you see that we don't have it all together all the time, that there are days that we struggle, we have the tools and we use them. But a lot of people think that on this mental health journey that sometime they're going to just arrive at this place where mental health is this destination where, okay, I got good mental health and I'm just here now. It doesn't work like that. This ebbs and
Stop
flows.
Screaming at me.
It ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows. It's a journey. That's why I coined that phrase. It's a mental health journey, because it is. It's a journey. It's not a destination. It's a journey. You're passing through, and there's going to be some valleys that you hit, and there's going to be some mountaintop moments as well. And so just knowing that, and when we share those peaks and those valleys, that's what resonates with people. The stuff in the middle, I post this stuff on social media, have for years. The stuff that's in the middle gets very little interaction from you guys. But the mountaintops and the valleys, that's where people resonate. That's where people connect. And so when we are vulnerable and we share that with all of you, you get to connect in those moments and see that we're not always on the mountaintop moment, that we have those low points too. And just like that fan said to Ren, the song didn't heal him, but it let him know that he wasn't alone in it. And for every one of us, there's a catalyst moment. There was a catalyst moment for Jess in her life. There was a catalyst moment for me in my life where we said, you know what? I'm tired of living this way. I don't want to live this way anymore. I have to do something different. And we did. And so for a lot of you right now, you're in the suck and you're just going to stay there because you haven't hit that catalyst moment yet. It hasn't been so bad to where you want to leave it yet. It sucks and you want something different, but not enough to move forward. You have to move forward.
Right. And that's a good place for me to interject that this isn't a permission to sit in your misery and bring everybody else down with you all the time. I tell my clients in this journey, right? If we were to have a river and from one side of the river is hurt and the other side of the river is healing, and there's stones that we have to step on to get from hurt to healing, you have to step on each stone. Each stone represents something different, but you can't sit on the stone forever or you'll be there forever and eventually the river will wash you away. You can't jump over a stone because it's too far away and the river will wash you away. You can't swim across, the river will wash you away. You can't canoe across because this is my river and I make the rules and that's just one of the rules. You have to step on each stone. And each stone, you have to step on it and sit in it for a minute or a month or whatever with the mindset and the goal to make it to the next stone and then make it to the next stone and then make it to the next stone until you've reached the other side of healing, right? And healing doesn't mean healed. It means healing. And so sometimes you have to go back and then you have to go back, but you can't skip a stone in the process of healing and you can't sit on a stone. So this is in no way permission. Oh yeah, well, Jessica's struggling so I can struggle and bring all my drama to all my friends all the time. No, that's not what we're saying either. I don't know why I feel like I had to say that. Maybe because I'm a counselor and a lot of people just want to sit in their agony and their misery all day and talk about it with everybody all day. And maybe that's one of my problems is like, I'm on that pendulum of like, I don't want to share it with anybody because I don't want to be that person, but I know I'm not that person. And so that's when the lies and the truth kind of combat in my mind. Like, I know I'm not that person. I know I can sit on my stone for a minute on my way to healing.
This is a really monumental episode that we're doing. This is our 100th episode. And we had talked for the last several weeks, what are we going to do on our 100th episode? We didn't really have an idea. We weren't sure. We kind of had some ideas of what we were going to do. And then this moment happened. Jess was struggling. The song came in. The story was there. And everything came together as a beautiful symphony. And so I want to talk to you specifically in the audience right now. Those of you who are at that catalyst moment, not those who are stuck in the pain of their past or those who think they got it all together. You guys are great. We love you. But I want to talk to the ones that are tired of living the way that you are. That you've worked hard your whole life and you're at this moment where it's like, I have to change something because I can't continue to live this way. If that's you, reach out to us. We have some tools that are going to help you. We have an entire Evolve Mental Health program that we put veterans through that's now available for civilians. There are steps that you can take forward, and we can be your guides, your cadre, to show you the way to healing. All right, on the Mental Health Janitors, we always want to do three things. We want to educate, empower, and encourage you on your mental health journey. For the Mental Health Janitors, I'm Sergeant Q.
I'm Hot Mess Jess to Doc Jess.
And we're out.